want to open up with anxiety. Some people are overly anxious. Trust God more. You've heard this before. I hope it's not a cliche. If you don't want to pray, worry. If you pray, don't worry. We already know this. Worrying has added nothing positive to our lives. So often we get so caught up and anxious and have expectations and think the worst things that never come to pass. In those moments, trust God more. He got us this far. Trust God more. You're at Mass this morning. If your presence here is any arc, any indication of how the rest of your life is going, you have very good confidence that the Lord who is with you, who is going to be in you, is going to guide you by safe passages. Yes, with struggles, yes, with pains. I buried a beautiful woman yesterday. She was 87 and had 4 sons. And my mother had 4 sons. And the sons were just so awesome in the pre-funeral meeting. And my point was, in all their sorrows and sadness, they trusted God. They trusted God. Our mother's in heaven. Our mother lived a full life. She was a big a real estate broker in this town. She had to raise the kids on her own. And it was just an amazing story about trust. When all things seem like they're going to collapse or fall down. Trust. I have 3 points today, 3 points for today's homily. Catholic schools, Jesus, and the devils. Today is Catholic Schools Week here at St. Thomas. St. Thomas is celebrating 90 years as a Catholic school in this town. Besides the 90 years of being a Catholic school, my experience of Crystal Lake is it's a very Christian town. Not just Catholics, there's lots of Christians, percentage, in our town. Generally, that's just a fact. You can go around and do some research. So I want to talk about the importance of Catholic schools by talking about my own grammar school, St. Helens, 2315 West Augusta. About 4 or 5 years ago, we celebrated our 100-year anniversary as a Catholic grammar school in inner city Chicago. And we have, to me, my greatest alumni was Mike Krzyzewski, who, if you do not know, is the coach of Duke basketball, the head coach. Why am I excited about this? Because he went to my grammar school, and he's the world's most successful college basketball coach ever. Now, he tells this story, and I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. The point is Catholic schools. Before I tell you what he said, in my office, I have a picture of me meeting Benedict, the Pope, me meeting John Paul II, who's a saint, and me alongside of Mike Krzyzewski. And when people come to my office, they say, well, I go, that guy was a pope, that guy's a saint, and I point to Mike Krzyzewski. Some think he's God. Anyway, Mike said this, and I'm sure you could find this somewhere on your computer business devices. He said, he's so high on he's so up there. He's got handlers. If you're very important, you have handlers. What does that mean? You don't have your own schedule, like being a priest. You don't have your own schedule. People make your schedule for you. So when you go to places, sign books, give talks, there's security, there's things in line. So he gave this speech at our 100-year anniversary. He says, I lost my handlers. I bought my own plane ticket. I rented my own car. And I drove around, by the way, I'm a North Sider. I'm not a South Sider. If you're a Chicago person, I'm a Cubs fan, okay? God bless the Sox. I'm a Cubs fan, okay? We both share the Bears, but we have 2 different baseball teams. Where I grew up, the Sox might as well be Indiana. Sorry. So Mike Krzyzewski's a North Sider. So Mike is driving around the north side of Chicago, asking himself one important question. How did God bless me so much? I got a beautiful wife. I have healthy children. I got all this success. So he goes to Weber. He went to Weber, right? Went to Weber High School, and he says, a lot happened here. A lot happened here in his high school years in terms of formation. He went to the schoolyard, and I never even thought about this because I'm older than a lot of young people. Hey, if you're my age or older, we learned a lot. Not all good stuff, but we learned a lot in the schoolyard. Mom wasn't around helicoptering. Dad was doing whatever Dad was doing. We learned a lot in the play lot. We did. We learned how to fight. We learned how to make up. We learned how to play well. Hopefully we learned how to lose well. Hopefully learn how to win well without beating our chests and sticking it in the other guy's face. But he made a long comment, because he was called a Columbo All-Star. The public school in my neighborhood growing up was a Columbus. We might have to tear down the statue now, so I don't know what's going on. But anyway, I don't know if you got that. The point is, it was a big part of his childhood. And then he drives over to my parish. He gave the talk at the White Eagle, the big Polish banquet hall across from St. Albert's Cemetery. It used to be called Cherburgo's, but they sold it. And I'm on TV, so I'm going to tell you how good the food is these days. And I'm not a food critic. But it's the largest banquet hall in Illinois, the White Eagle Banquet Hall. So that's where he gave the talk. So now he's back where I grew up. It's about 40 minutes away from the White Eagle. And he's thinking, what brought me all this success? Why am I so blessed? You know what he said? The nuns. That's what he said. Of all the things that entered my life to propel me to this level of success, it was my Catholic education. This is what I learned in grammar school. Fair play, discipline, virtue, heroic behavior. Those nuns, he said, taught him how to win. Now, I don't think the sisters had a basketball team. I don't think they were like famous, like the Felician sisters, like #1 in the state for like basketball. But it was those other I don't want to say incidental, foundational, fundamental values and discipline that made this man who he became to be. I'm going to say something radical, and I'm glad you're sitting for this. All things being equal, send your children to Catholic schools. When people bring up the money, I don't think people realize this. Monsignor Hermes is the most generous priest in terms of affording access to our Catholic education. Do you know what it costs in Crystal? You can correct me after Mass. Again, I'm open to a Google check. In Crystal Lake, for a grammar school child, you pay taxes, you know all about this. I saw some of your taxes. I'm like, wow, your taxes. It costs $12,200 to educate a grammar school child in Crystal Lake. Do you know what it costs us at St. Thomas? $5,200. Might be $5,350. And the parents don't have to pay all of it. They pay what they can. I'm just saying, all things being equal. And when you have grandchildren, send them to a Catholic school. That's in no way putting down public schools. I'm just saying what I'm saying. Let's move on. Jesus. In today's, I love Jesus, by the way. I love Jesus. I love talking about Jesus. I love thinking about Jesus. I love thinking about Jesus loving me. Okay, this is a bad joke, but every morning I get up and I get into a fight with Jesus over who loves me more. Thank you. Every once in a while he just throws up his hands and yells, Uncle. No, I know he loves me, and I want to stay with that thought. He loves me, he cares for me, he takes care of me. Did you hear how they described him in today's gospel? They were amazed. They were amazed. They were astonished. They were amazed at his presence. They were astonished in his actions. And they were also, they said he taught like someone with authority. Here's the problem for many of us today, unless you're married. Nobody talks to you in general the way I talk to you from this pulpit. Nobody talks to you like this. They really don't. People usually find out what you like and placate you. People deflect things. Very few people are calling out other people on irresponsible behavior or an invitation to grow in better behavior. It's true. I tell this to the people in town, because very few people, sorry, this is a fact. With all the Christianity in our town, there's still only 30% maybe of the Catholics registered at St. Thomas who go to Mass. Whenever I run into a coach, I always tell them, hey, you got some heavy weight on your shoulders. Because if I'm not sending my children to Catholic schools, if I'm not sending my children to church, where are they going to get the discipline and the virtue and the sports? In one way, sports is going to be that aspect. So one thing in today's gospel that is so important to think about is Jesus taught not like the scribes and the Pharisees, but he taught with authority. And I wonder if your conscience is open to hearing that call to you from his authority. Okay, I know you're faithful. You're at Mass this morning. I got the faithful part. And it's not a check the box thing. It's significant. To be faithful is significant. In marriage, it's essential. Infidelity has no place in marriage. Infidelity will never be on God's side of the ledger when it comes to his covenant. It'll always be on my side of the ledger. But I'm here to invite you to say fidelity is not enough. There's more to God than just being faithful to him. It's called intimacy. It's called vulnerability. It's called, am I sincerely open to hearing a call from God to be more giving of myself to him and to others? Am I more open to the message? You know, it's very unattractive when you meet somebody in a conversation and they shut down, whether they're 12 years old or 72 years old, and they put a block up because they just happen to know everything. You know how proud I am to be a Catholic Christian? And the reason I'm a Catholic Christian as opposed to some other kind of Christian is because I believe that what he said at the altar at the Last Supper is true. He said, this is my body. Look, here's the other side of this. If God inspired the apostles by the Holy Spirit to write John's Gospel, all the Gospels, if you ever read John 6 carefully, chapter John 6, there's only one, sorry, and I apologize for making this too simple. There's only one conclusion if I'm a non-Catholic. For me, there's only one conclusion if I'm a non-Catholic Christian. God wanted to confuse the Catholics. He must have. Because he kept saying, my body is real food. My blood is real drink. Moses didn't give you guys, your fathers, the bread in the desert. That was my father who fed you. And right before he died, he told us what he wanted. He gave us his last will and testament. So, I'm amazed by Jesus. I'm astonished by him. And I want to invite everybody to open up our hearts and be more willing to accept his authority in your fidelity. Look, you got this far. Many of you overcame major sins, habitual bad behaviors. I know myself. I'm preaching to myself. Bad attitudes. Well, we're not done. God is inviting us to a superhighway of ever greater self-giving and receptivity of his love. What's the obstacle? The devils. The devil and the devils. And when I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I mention the devil, but I also mention but the equally sinister deeds of distraction. You know, when I was in Rome recently, the travel company takes nice care of me. Not that you're worried about that. They give me an iPhone. I don't have an iPhone. I gladly brag about having the flip phone. They gave me an iPhone. I don't know how to use it. Someone had to help me use the iPhone. But I got news for you. By the time the week ended, I was getting distracted by my phone. That's me who lives his whole life with a flip phone. How distracted are you with your phones? Now, I'm going to clean this up for you. I did not for the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. I'm going to clean it up for you. If I was married and I worked hard for my money, I had a bad boss, I didn't like my job, but I want to do the best I can for my wife and my children. And let's say my wife worked too. And we're sitting at home and I'm like, honey, or maybe she says that to me, because you might take that the wrong way. What's going on around here? She says to me, honey, can you pass the potatoes? And little Susie's doing this. Or Billy. I'm cleaning it up for you. What I would do, I do not know. But do I would. And I'd probably think about my actions later, like most of my behaviors. But it's a struggle for you. I understand it's a struggle for you. So what are you going to do, parents? You can either give in now or do what we're doing politically. Do some negotiating. I'm serious. It's a huge distraction. Not babies crying. I like babies crying. It tells us our church is growing. Your babies can cry all they want to cry. Ain't throwing me off. But when your kids do this, it drives me nuts. Because there's a person in front of you. And I can go on with a whole homily. The point is the 3 Ds of the devil, besides the horns and the tail. Distractions. People are distraction. Disinformation. I spend more time with fall-away Catholics correcting a misunderstanding. We never said we earned salvation. Stop! Stop already. We never said that. The poor and the refugees. Has anyone done more for the poor than the Catholic Church? Anybody, anywhere. How about refugees? The sick, the homeless. Yes, there's others who help, of course. We don't have a monopoly on this. But the church is right in there. We're at ground zero. When the earthquake came in Haiti, the first words out came from the Catholics. The Catholics were like, hey, we got troubles over here. This thing is falling apart. And then it went up the chain. A lot of disinformation. And finally, discouragement. People can be very discouraging. If you're married and you have trouble in husbands and wives, I get it. There's a give and take. There's trouble sometimes in paradise. But don't look at a kid in the middle of a marriage problem and take it out on the kid. And the same thing with the kid with the parents. Again, we're back to parenting again. And again, maybe I'm making this up, but I'm just going to say it, and I'll say it slowly, because that's how I talk to my 6th and 8th graders. So I might as well talk to you this way. If I was married, and some of your children talk to your wife, and they're going to talk to my wife like that, I would not stand for it. I'm not saying I would hit them, or I just wouldn't take it. This conversation, well, Father, so what are you saying? I'm saying the conversation would stop. Susie, Johnny, whatever my son or daughter's name is, that is not just inappropriate. I got to draw a line here. Because if you're going to talk to the woman who bore you like that, what makes me think you're not going to talk to other people like that? And it shows a real lack of gratitude. So discouragement. What's the opposite? 3 points, we're done. 1, encouragement. Julie does an awesome job. Don't clap because she'll lose her grace. She does an awesome job. All those people who sing, they don't get paid. I love giving them compliments because they sing phenomenally. How about the resurrection choir at funerals? We do funerals in this parish. I don't know if you know that. They show up all the time. They sing. They just show up. The funeral luncheon ladies, they just show up to make the food for the people, the decedents, the family of the people who died. RCIA sponsors and people who take care of the RCIA people. It's easy to encourage people, not discourage them. Your wife, your husband, your kids. Encourage them. And let's not be distracted. Let's be focused. On what? On God's love. And about who we're about to receive. And the last point is disinformation. Tell people. Father, what do you want me to tell them? Tell them what I tell them. I love Jesus. RCIA.